All right, so now I've got it going and I'm recording on here. Uh, just kind of going over again, just kind of touch base real quick. Just kind of looking at the information that we want to be finding. Why did the house freeze? What kind of heater is in place? How old is it? How old is the home? Maybe document how deep the insulation is, or was any remodeling or any other work done to that home? Is there a monitoring alarm? Also want to remember that since this is a freeze claim and the cause of loss is freeze, the plumbing repairs will be covered as long as it is freeze. The cost to get the boiler going that was broke, even the cost to replace the boiler if it was broken, or the cost to replace the copper lining, whatever it may be. A couple other things. Sorry, I'm backtracking here. Just want to make sure I cover everything. Make sure the evidence was preserved. Tell the policyholder, hang on to the cracked piece of pipe so that you can photograph them. Get good photos from all angles. We kind of call it the 6 points: top, bottom, left, right, of the entire area, so that it's properly documented. If the policyholder or even mitigation has photos of the area, prior to them tearing out the walls or prior to them tearing out the pipes, we definitely want to try to obtain those. Want to know again what kind of heating system. If they've already got a plumber involved or an HVAC technician involved, which likely they do, to get it all running again, please get their information, contact information, get any reports the policyholder has, reach out to those technicians and try to obtain those reports as well. We want to determine, how old is the furnace there? Policyholder may or may not know that. Is it a rent house? Are there tenants currently in the place? Were they in there at the time? Were they on vacation? If they have a propane or oil or even wood, we kind of want to make sure when, are they on an auto delivery system? When was the last delivery? Get that contact information. Let's reach out to them, find out. You may find out from the oil company, yeah, they told us to stop delivery 4 months ago. The biggest thing is just document all of the pertinent information from your inspection: names, dates, any details, phone numbers, etc. Again, touching on large losses, a lot of these have the potential to be a large loss, so we definitely want to expedite them. Triage your losses when you contact your policyholder. Reach out to them ASAP. These and fire claims should be your two most important kind of hurry up and jump on them kind of claims. When you go out there, if you do determine it's going to be a large loss, we've got to make sure we get the inspection note uploaded. Nice detailed inspection note. Nice photo report with labels uploaded, and then make sure to get that large loss report and photo report emailed over to your manager the same day you did the inspection. Kind of moving on here. These photos here, type if in the box there if anybody can't see the photos, but got an overview here of a stairwell. Nice overview. Shows those water supply lines there and labeled it overview of stairwell showing failed water supply lines to baseboard heaters on the second floor. Multiple pipe bursts present. Nice, good description, explains what's going on. Then I've got a close-up of the burst water line, and I say where it is instead of just having the close-up. It's on the left wall feeding the master bedroom, I'm sorry. Moving on here, showing, again, the situation where you have multiple breaks. Again, I'm showing close-up a burst water line and then saying where that water line is actually located. This first one's on the back wall, and then here on the right wall, and what room it's feeding. It's feeding that guest bedroom. Then we're moving on here to overviews. We've got the overviews of the affected bedroom. Moving on then to photos within that bedroom, of the broken lines. There's some typical breaks, on the actual radiators in the baseboard. That's a pretty typical common place to break. If you've already got some repairs done, make sure to take those photos as well. Okay. A couple of the most important photos that we can take on these is all of freeze claims should have photos of the thermostat and each thermostat if there are multiple systems in the house. So both of these photos came from the same claim. So you can see that on the second floor, that thermostat's the unit, although I don't see an on-off switch, that unit's probably off, which makes sense if all the pipes are broke at the current time. But then you see the one downstairs is set about 68. So it's just good documentation. You ask them, do people live up here? Do you normally keep the heat on up here? Document that stuff. Or do they say no, in the wintertime, we try to save money and we turn the heater off up there? Well, maybe that's the reason why the pipes broke and we have a failure to maintain heat situation. We're going to want to document what type of system it is. If it's an oil tank, we're definitely going to have a photo of the oil tank located in the basement, showing that it's there. It's present. It hadn't been removed or repossessed or damaged. If you can see a gauge there, we're going to want a photo of the gauge showing that the unit has fuel in it or not. Here's a standard photo and label of a boiler in the basement. We deal with a lot of boiler claims. We're definitely going to want to get a picture of that boiler as well as the manufacturer's plate on there. Any kind of service information that may be present on the unit, when they serviced it, what size unit it is, etc., as well as any decals or documents you find on the unit or on the oil tank showing who their service provider is. In this instance, it says it's Glow Oil. We can pick up the phone and call Glow Oil and say, hey, the house at this address, when was the last time you delivered to it? And get a lot of information that way. Kind of starting at the beginning, again, good investigation into what's going on. Photos of the furnace, photos of the oil tank, photos of the propane tank, photos of the thermostat, close-ups of the damage. Show me where it was. Show me the close-ups. In our photo order, the photo order on these claims should generally be front risk, address, and then, yes, even on a freeze and pipe claim, left, right, and rear elevations of the home. That way you can document no damage to the left elevation. However, the pipe that froze and broke was on this elevation. It was the supply line to the hose bib on this elevation, if that's the case. But we still need all that documentation. Your photo order is always going to start in the room. That was where the actual damage occurred. So like in the example I provided here, we started in that stairwell, then showed the damaged items, then worked my way out from there. There may not even be damage in that stairwell, but because that's where the damage occurred, that's where we're going to start our photos. These are good rules, even if you're just doing a standard pipe break claim or really any interior water damage claim, Photos good to include on these freeze claims. Look up in the attic, see if there's insulation. Maybe it's been an addition. Maybe it's old and there's not any insulation there, never had been. So a bunch of good information we need to be obtaining on these. Wanting to try to keep this short and sweet. Let's see if we can open this up to Q&A right now and see if anybody's got any questions. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. All right, you're up. Anybody got any questions? Sure. Speak now. All right, guys. Well, apparently there's not any questions. Go ahead. You got a question?
Hey, I'm going to hop in there. This is Jermaine up in Rochester. I was just, so I've run into a few up here. We've had a ton of freezes, and plumbers are being stretched pretty thin. So I'm coming across a lot of these where they haven't been serviced, touched, no mitigation, no plumber or anything. With some of these, I know, that plumber's report is really going to help us determine coverage. But where we get some of these where we get out there and plumber's not going to be there for another week, and mitigation hasn't been able to get out there because whatever reason, are we just using our best judgment and just kind of maybe just connecting back and just seeing where it can go after we get the report, or are we just gonna just give it our best, submit it, and just kind of just describe what's happening?
Yeah, so that's kind of tough. If mitigation's not involved, the plumber hasn't come out for, let's say the burst pipes, et cetera, I would assume in that instance that the water's probably shut off to the house. Maybe it's an opportunity to reach out to the CE and see about trying to definitely get mitigation involved. Even if their plumbers can't be out yet, we got the water shut off. Let's at least get the house dry. Maybe also we can reach out to the CE and find out, do we have any preferred vendors in the area that are plumbers that can get out there any quicker than the policyholder's plumber? Maybe they can, maybe they can't, but at least we want to try to explore that avenue. But unfortunately, those are just difficult situations. You know, again, even in that situation, if there's a delay in that claim, the biggest deal we keep going back to is documentation. Document, you know, what's going on. Stay in touch with the policy. Document your conversations with the CE, et cetera. Keep trying to drive that thing forward. All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
All right. So let's see. There's a question here. Do most claims have coverage if a power outage? Well, I guess my first question is, why did the power go out? Is it an area-wide power outage? Did a tree limb fall on the line? Or did they not pay their electric bill? If they didn't pay their electric bill, I think we've got a failure to maintain heat issue. But if it's an area-wide power outage or trees down, et cetera, and that caused it, I believe we are going to have some coverage there. Let's see here. Who determines failure to maintain heat from a settle on-site point? Well, you're the adjuster. You're the one that needs to determine coverage. You're the one that needs to determine if they failed to maintain heat. Maybe there's questions that need to be answered, and you're not going to be able to settle this claim on site. That's perfectly fine. But again, it goes back to documenting that file as to why it's being held open. It's being held open because I'm needing to reach out to the oil supply company. I'm needing to determine, you know, if heat was maintained and continue to work that file moving forward. What we don't want is for the file to just set with, hey, I got to do some more work on it, and then 3 days later, there's no notes in there. Those files should be touched daily and notes updated daily with what's going on with them. Anybody else?
Yeah, Jason, Mike Boylan, I got a question.
Go right ahead, Mike.
Not a freeze claim, but I put in a request for mitigation yesterday on a fire claim. I told the guy they should contact him shortly. I put it in at 5 o'clock. He called me at 1 today, and he had me contact him.
Can I get you to reach out to your field manager on that question, please?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have any questions regarding this water loss documentation, freeze claims, et cetera? All right, guys, don't want to keep y'all. Looks like we're coming up here on about 20 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes, which is what I want to keep these two just short and sweet. Again, you know, the biggest thing that I can stress on these is documentation and investigation. Who, what, when, where. Photos. Photos are cheap. You know, take photos of everything. Thermostats, pipes, furnaces, etc. See, we got another question here. If the heat pipes have not been repaired, many mitigations cannot start mitigation without supplemental heat. A lot of times they can bring in supplemental heat, depending on if the electricity is up in that area or what's going on. A lot of times they can shut off just that zone. We've seen different situations where we've had approval to have plumbers go in and just put a valve in there and shut that one zone off until they can actually get out there and do the repairs. So there's a lot of different options to go there. Again, it goes to, let's just keep trying to drive this thing forward, find out if we have other options. You know, if the plumber's scheduled out 2 weeks, hey, can we get another plumber out here? Do we have a program vendor that can get out there a little sooner? You know, reach out to the city. Let's try to get this thing moving forward. But, you know, we don't want these people without heat. Go ahead. Somebody have a question? All right. Anybody else?
Hey, Jason, this is George Clark. So if I'm understanding this correctly, the only way we should be discussing getting water mitigation or getting a plumber out there is if we have determined that it's a covered loss. Because the concern there is if you tell the people, we reach out and we're telling them to get water mitigation or tell them to get a plumber out there and it's not a covered loss. We just want to make sure that we're not putting Liberty Safeco on the hook for damages that aren't going to be covered.
Right.
And that's something we should explain to them that, hey, you need to get them out here, but it's not covered, or it is covered and we need to do that. I mean, guess transparency with the policyholder that we're not putting them on the hook for a bill coming that we're not going to cover.
So, basically that goes back to good investigation on your first contact. Find out, why did it freeze? What froze? What's the damages? Is it just this pipe, this one that led down here, or is it all the baseboard heaters? What kind of heat do you have in the house? Again, it just comes down to that good investigation and trying to determine. I know we say we don't ever determine coverage over the phone, but mitigation contractors, when they're program vendors, they're pretty good about backing out of the house and saying, hey, we're going to have to come back once the adjuster's been out here if there's any question on it, And through that first contact and that investigation on the initial side, you're going to know if you're feeling, hey, is there something weird going on here? They're saying they were out of the country for a month and a half, or this is their second home. You may push them, hey, I need you to get a plumber out there. Have you called anybody? And just explain to them, even if they're asking you, hey, is this going to be covered? Well, I can't guarantee or bind any kind of coverage over the phone, but regardless of coverage, you're going to need to get your plumbing fixed and the heat turned back on, right? I'll just save any receipts that you have. Unfortunately, that's just simply the way it's got to go.
Sir, I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Go right ahead.
I was working a freeze claim here a couple days ago, and there's evidence that the insured had not paid their gas bill, that the gas was shut off.
Okay.
But the CE went ahead and granted them coverage.
Well, that just goes down
rather prematurely. So what do we do in this case? We just give our observation and let them run with it, or
first off, I would document the file. Then I would reach out to that
Sure.
CE, confirm. A lot of times you hear from the policyholder, well, they told me this was covered. Then you reach out to the CE and you find out, well, that may not be exactly how that conversation, or maybe it is.
Sure.
And you reach out to the CE and tell them, hey, is it, you already committed to coverage? Yeah, I told them it was covered. Well, hey, here's what's going on. Do you want to cover it? And if they say yes, ask them to please put a note in exact analysis, and we write it up and go down the road. It's the old saying that the CE tells us to buy them a new Jaguar. They put it in writing. I'm going to buy them a new Jaguar.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
How about pizza?
Next. Anybody else? So there's a question here that says, if mitigation is and has been there when you get the claim, where do you determine coverage? Well, that, as far as what the damages are, we know it was a pipe break. So we're going to want to go back to, why did the pipe break? That just goes down to the good investigation and asking the right questions. Maybe the thermostat's already been adjusted, but we're still going to take a picture of the thermostat. If it's an oil tank, I'm going to call the oil company. When's the last time you put oil in here? Now it's got a brand new full tank in it, but I call them and say, yeah, it was empty when we got there. We had to put 200 gallons in it, or whatever it may be, So it just goes back again, investigation. Laws of loss. Why did it occur? What actually failed? Anybody else?
Yes. So if CE sent the mitigation company and they tore up the carpet, part of the wall, baseboard, but the cause was failure to maintain the heat, do we still cover the damages caused by our mitigation company?
Well, I would probably be reaching out to the desk adjuster, to the CE, to discuss that situation. They try to keep that to a minimal, but if the policyholder hired their own mitigation, well, that's up to them. That ain't on us. But if we sit out there, maybe they're going to cover that mitigation bill. But that's not necessarily your problem to deal with. They have a mitigation office to deal with that portion of it. But I would definitely be bringing the CE into the loop on that and saying, hey, they've done a whole bunch of tear out here, but it's pretty obvious that they, let's say they haven't had heat in here for months or whatever, we want to make sure that we're 100% on our determination in a case like that, and our investigation as far as confirming that it did not have heat. you're noticing a theme. Going to the CE, documenting the file, asking the questions, investigation. Can we get access to Navigator? Unfortunately, no, sir. Anybody else? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got about 533 electric bills. Okay, are we talking about what electric bills from the mitigation? If we're talking about increased electric bill because of them running, the fan and all that, potentially they will for that. They're gonna.
I'm sorry.
Guys, can you?
Yes. Hi, good evening. Yeah, I have a question about that. The insurers were inquiring because they've been running them for like 7 days straight.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody because I'm getting talked over. I'll unmute you in just a second. So on the electric bills, when the fans and dehues and all that stuff are running, okay, there's a potential that they're going to see a spike in the electric bill. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get an average of what the bills are at that time. Generally, you're going to just document that information because they're not going to have that bill yet, or maybe not the bill after that. And they're going to want to see the bill before it, the bill where it spiked, and the bill after it. So we just kind of bring that to their attention and we document the file. And that's something that potentially is going to be paid under ALE. Okay. Same kind of scenario. Let's say they have baseboard water heaters and the water heaters broke, but they just bought a couple of electric heaters and put them in the house and they're able to stay in the house instead of going to a hotel. That's, again, something that's going to be under ALE, additional living expenses. We're going to document it. We're going to say that there is an expected spike in the electric bill. We're going to maybe even show the photos and the overviews of all the electric heaters they put in the house that prevented us from having to incur the cost of ALE, hotels, et cetera. Again, just documenting it all. But that ALE piece is not something that we generally handle as independent adjusters. Go ahead. Anybody else?
Yeah, red light appears we're going to turn left hand.
What's that? Somebody's turning, apparently. I hope you do it safely. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, if there's no other questions here, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Again, just want to reiterate, investigation, photos of everything. And I think you guys will be successful at this. We just want to properly document our files and remember that if the cause of loss is freeze, more than likely they're going to be paying that plumber's bill. You guys have a great night. I did record this and it will be sent out along with the PowerPoint presentation. Any other questions, please feel free to give me a call. Reach out to your field manager. Again, call me. I'm always available too. You guys have a great night. And if you're deployed or up north, stay warm. Thank you, guys.